Welcome back. Today we are looking at the deep sea colors from the Schmincke Super Granulating range. It is again 5 colors, and let's have a look at what those colors are first. First up, we have Deep Sea Violet, and that's PB29 and PBR33. Next we have Deep Sea Indigo, that is PV62 and PG18. Deep Sea Blue, which is PG50, PV16 and PB29. Deep Sea Green, PG18 and PB29. And finally we have the Deep Sea Black, which is PBK11, PB74 and PB35. And here are all the colors dried. Couple of notes I want to reply from your comments. A lot of people said, how do those colors make those colors? As in, how do these original colors make the colors? As I said in the first video, these colors, just for references, I just guessed which color, and Schmincke does have other colors with the same pigment code, and it's entirely possible that they use that instead. It's difficult at best for me to guess which color they've used, so it's just for reference, and if it's most likely, if it doesn't make sense, it's probably because they chose a different color. So I hope you can just go with the flow on that one. Also, thank you for everyone pointing out that the PBR6 Schmincke does have a Mars brown, so if you want to make your original colors, then you can make it with Mars brown if you have that in your collection. Let's get on with taking a good look at these colors. We are going to start with the Deep Sea Violet. And the thing about the Deep Sea range is that they're all kind of blue colors. So when they call the colors violet and indigo and turquoise, no, they don't call it turquoise, but they do call it blue, green and black as well. The color names are slightly not what you imagine. For example, in the next one you'll see with the indigo, I wouldn't call that indigo, but when the colors are so close, you kind of have to call it something. This is the Deep Sea Violet, and it is made with something around the ultramarine blue color and the mahogany brown. It has really strong granulation, and you can see the warmth of the PBR33 coming through all the way from the mass stone and to probably about here. You do get some faint warmth here, but majority of the warmth is up here. So if you want that warmth coming through, then make sure you use at least a medium strength concentration of paint to water ratio. With the Deep Sea range and all the older 3 range of colors, I did manage to get source on light fastness and transparency from a secondary source, so I have put that on the test sheet as well. In terms of mixing colors, not the greatest in terms of mixing its warm colors, and it's not amazing at changing the color of the cool colors, especially the ultramarine violet and the ultramarine blue. The only time you kind of see a good effect of mixing it with this color is around about here with the phthalo blues, maybe the queen violet, but I wouldn't call this a good mixing color. In terms of re-wet and tinting strengths, as you can see, there's nothing here. It's just medium average in terms of this whole range. It's average re-wet and average tinting strength. In terms of transparency, I do see some deposit, but not a huge amount, so I do agree that it's semi-transparent. Lift, I would say it's slightly staining. I can see some deposit still left on the page, but it is relatively easy to lift, which means when you come to glaze, it doesn't do a great job in glazing. I wouldn't recommend it. You see the lighter rim here and the darker square in the middle. That's a sign that it's not a great glazer. Let's move on to the next color, which is the Deep Sea Indigo. As I said, I wouldn't call this color indigo. considering Indigo is a very deep blue. I would actually, if I had to pick between the two, I would probably call this Indigo because it is more indigo-y, even though it's slightly on the violet side. I'd probably call this like deep sea turquoise. But naming aside, it is a lovely color. You get the warmer blue, which is the more ultramarine blue kind of color granulation happening, and then the background is more of a turquoisey blue, more of the cooler blue. And if you get confused about that, then there is a whole video explaining that for you, which I will link up in the corner there in my color theory video. So you get the granulation, which kind of looks like ultramarine blue granulation happening here, but then you can see that it's actually a purple granulation coming from PV62. In terms of color mixes, it's fine. It's very, very low in tinting strength, which is not surprising because PV62 and PG18, neither of them are hugely tinting strengths, high tinting strength colors, and therefore it's reasonable that the mix of those two colors are weak tinting strengths as well. So this is definitely a color for palettes that have lots of cobalt violets and cobalt blues and greens and viridian genuines. Those kind of palette, this will go lovely in. If you have strong palette like mine though, it's really gonna get lost in the color mixing. So in terms of color mixing with my strong palette, it was a little bit awkward because you have to be so careful of how little amount of the stronger colors you put into the color mix in order to make this color live in the color mix. Again, I wouldn't say this is a great mixing color. It doesn't wow me. The palette doesn't wow me. However, that doesn't mean that somebody isn't looking for this exact palette look, and if it is, then great, you will find this color amazing to work with. In terms of transparency, it is classified as semi-transparent, and I would agree with that in that there's very little deposit on the black line. I can see some, but very, very faintly. In terms of lift, I would say it's about the same as the deep sea violet, and it's easy to lift, but you are going to get tiny bit of color left. Neither of these colors are hard to remove, and therefore you're going to get most of that color off. So I would say it's relatively easy to lift, and because of that, again, not the best glazer. You see the lighter rim happening here. Let's move on to the deep sea blue. Deep sea blue is a combination of three colors, probably cobalt turquoise, probably manganese violet, and probably ultramarine blue. As I say, it's all guesses because you only get the pigment codes and not the colors themselves. I have to say, this is one color that I'm like, who needs this color? I mean, I'm sure somebody does, and great for them, but to me, it's almost exactly the same as an ultramarine blue. The only difference is that because of the cobalt coming in, it's a lot more opaque blue. So if you are after a lot more opaque blue color, then this is perfect. But otherwise, this is the first tube I would say that don't bother with this color unless you have a very specific use and you've been looking for this more opaque version of a ultramarine blue. Because of its opacity, it does have a little bit more chalkiness to it that you would expect by having the cobalt turquoise in there. However, there is no dual colorness that you get in, all these other colors, which I kind of feel like is the fun of this series, is that you get two different colors coming through. You don't get that at all here. It's very consistent in the colors. It is heavily granulating, but also very opaque, obviously. And you can really see the opacity here. And they classify it as semi-transparent. I completely disagree with this. I would say this is an opaque watercolor because I don't know if it's coming through on the camera. I hope it is coming through on the camera, but this is very different to, say, the Deep Sea Indigo, which is also classified as semi-transparent. These are clearly not the same. In terms of color mixing, it mixes like a ultramarine blue would. There's no surprises here. the color's a little bit more opaque in nature if you paint it over other colors, but that's about it. And just like ultramarine blue, it lifts off very, very easily. It lifts off, I think, one of the best in the entire range. And because of that, it's not great. I just don't know what to say about it, because this is like just an opaque ultramarine blue to me. And I'm sure you guys know ultramarine blue very well by now on this channel. So yeah, that's all it is. Opaque ultramarine blue. On to the next color is the deep sea green, and I would say that this is a very turquoisey green. It is a mix of PG18, probably Viridian, and PB29, which we know is ultramarine blue. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous turquoisey color. It's like, you know, Queen Turquoise and Queen Turquoise Blue by Daniel Smith. It's that color, but heavily granulating. So if you're looking for something of that kind of color, but granulating, this is a beautiful color to go for. And it neutralizes beautifully with vermilion, which is nice. Would I say this is a good mixing color? I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't pick it and add to my palette for being an amazing color mixer. I think this is one of those colors where you enjoy the color for what it is. I can see so many uses for this deep sea green. If you do a lot of landscape, if you do a lot of seascapes, this will be a beautiful dream to paint with. In terms of opacity, it's classified as semi-transparent, and I would agree with that. Some deposit, but not a huge amount. It lifts quite well, but I would say quite well rather than very well, like the previous deep sea blue. This lifts a lot easier. But again, all these colors tend to lift pretty easily. I mean, I'm being picky by saying, oh, this is slightly staining. It's just slightly staining compared to other colors. And because it is easy to lift, again, not the best glazer in the world. But I mean, come on, look at this. It's so beautiful. I would seriously consider having that color just for how beautiful it is on my palette. And then finally we have the deep sea black. It's made again of 3 colors, PBK11, maybe Mars black, PB74, maybe cobalt blue deep, and PB35, probably cobalt azure, might not be. If you've used lunar black and found that it lacks depth, this is like the power version of the lunar black from Daniel Smith, because it has that super granulating quality and that same shade of black, but then you have heavily granulating blues happening here. It is very, very textural, so if you want moody dark skies, this will be amazing to paint with. It's incredibly easy to re-wet. It's almost like painting with brands like Sennelier where they put honey in. It's that easy to re-wet. It also has very high tinting strength, which is great for someone like me with a high tinting strength palette. But if you have a softer palette, then you might struggle mixing with this color. I have to say, I am absolutely in love with how it mixes with phthalo blue and creates this huge, strong granulating color, amazing texture, and it still keeps the phthalo blue yellow shade really alive in that mix. Overall, I probably wouldn't call this a great mixing color, but how it mixes with this is just absolutely stunning. A bit like the Tundra green and the quinacridone rose, how beautiful that mixed in my previous episode. It is classified as semi-opaque, and it's kind of hard to tell. This is deep sea green and it's semi-transparent, and this is semi-opaque. Maybe it's very, very difficult to tell the difference between semi-transparent and semi-opaque just by eye. It's slightly opaque, slightly transparent. It's somewhere in the middle. I would never call this a opaque paint, and I wouldn't call this a transparent paint. but you can see the blue granulation just happening so well on this sample. If you love texture in your painting, then this is definitely the one to go for. It's a little bit more staining than other colors. There's definitely more left on the paper. However, it's still not a good glazer. Basically, with this range, don't try to glaze too much, or know that you're not going to have much control in terms of glazing. Just enjoy the color as it is on its own in single layers. I have to say these mixes are great, probably for if you do a lot of rocks and stone painting. Maybe you like doing architecture, then I can definitely see these textures working really well for light colored stone buildings. So that's it for deep sea colors. What do I think of them? I think a quick summary will be textural, beautiful color, opaque ultramarine blue, and I don't have as much to say about on these two. Deep sea violet is like indigo-y color with warmth to it, and deep sea indigo is a cool turquoise color. I definitely wouldn't recommend bothering with deep sea blue unless you are specifically looking for a opaque ultramarine blue. I think out of these five, I'll be more interested in getting the deep sea black and the deep sea green personally for myself, because I love adding texture with use of granulation and two-toned colors, especially the deep sea black. If I had to number this in order of what I like, definitely deep sea black first, then deep sea green, and I know this is going to be the last, probably the deep sea violet, because the warmth coming through in that indigo-y inky color is quite interesting, and then deep sea indigo, and then deep sea blue. I hope my way of ranking helps, but it's my personal choice. None of these were great color mixers, so I wouldn't be buying them for color mixing. I would be buying them because I find how they behave on their own really beautiful. I hope this video has helped you in picking between the deep sea colors. Do let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for your feedback from the last one and all the information that you supplied that I didn't manage to find myself. I really appreciate it. In the next video, we are going to be looking at the Glacier videos. I do actually have the deep sea colors plus a few of the Glacier colors as the Schmincke Super Granulation Part 1 dot card. This is an old card. Obviously, you're going to get a brand new one. This is just my sample for taking photos and videos. If you want this card, all you have to do is sign up to receive this month's dot card, which is the Tundra dot card, and then you can back order any of my old dot cards. I have this. I also have the rest of the Glaciers and the Galaxy colors as well. So if you just want the whole collection, sign up this month, and next month you will receive, and then back order these two, and then you have all 25 colors. And if you want that, then you can sign up over on patreon.com/AutoCrowner. I'm sure you know the link by now. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all of the things if this video was useful. For some reason, my numbers have really plummeted since I started putting up videos again. It makes no sense to me. So if you can do any of those things, subscribe if you haven't, and like and comment and share, then that's really going to help this channel, and it will really help me, and I'd be forever grateful. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!